If you're hearing this, it's already too late. I know how that sounds melodramatic, maybe even a little desperate, but I need you to listen. Not just with your ears, but with that part of you that wakes up at 3 in the morning, heart pounding, convinced something is watching from the shadows. That part of you that knows, deep down, the dark isn't empty. I'm whispering because I have to. Because if I speak too loudly, it might hear me. And if it hears me, it might come for you next. So please don't turn off the lights. Not yet. I know you're probably lying in bed, earbuds in, hoping for a story to help you drift off. That's what I used to do too. I used to think stories were safe. That the worst thing a scary story could do was keep you up a little later, make you check the closet twice, maybe laugh at yourself in the morning. But I was wrong. Some stories are warnings. Some stories are traps. There are things you're not supposed to know, but I can't keep this secret anymore. I've tried. God, I've tried. I've deleted posts, burned journals, even tried to forget. But it doesn't matter. It always finds a way back. It takes. That's what it does. It takes, and it never gives back. Not really. Not the way you remember. I'm not supposed to talk about it. That's one of the rules. But rules only work if you know them, and nobody ever told me. So I'm telling you, even if it means breaking the last bit of safety I have left. Maybe if you know, you'll be ready. Maybe you'll see the signs before it's too late. I can feel it watching now, just beyond the edge of the light, waiting for me to slip, to say too much. But I have to risk it. For you. For anyone who has ever felt that cold breath on the back of their neck and told themselves it was just the wind. Let me start at the beginning, before I knew what it takes. I used to think I was safe, as long as I followed the rules. Not the big, cosmic rules, just the little ones. The ones we invent to keep the world predictable. Wake up at 7, brush your teeth, coffee with too much sugar, check your phone, scroll until your brain feels numb. Work, eat, sleep, repeat. I built my life out of routines, stacking them like sandbags against the flood of everything unpredictable and strange. My apartment was small, but it was mine. The kind of place where you know every creak in the floorboards, every stubborn window that sticks in the summer. I liked the way the morning light spilled across the kitchen table, the way the radiator clanked to life on cold nights. I liked the illusion of control, the comfort of knowing what came next. Even my anxieties were familiar bills, deadlines, the occasional existential spiral at 2 a.m. I thought if I kept my world small, nothing could get in. Nighttime was my favorite. I had a ritual: hot shower, soft pajamas, a book or a podcast to drown out the city noise. I'd tuck myself in, phone within reach, lamp casting a warm pool of light across the room. Sometimes I'd listen to scary stories, the kind that made my skin prickle but never felt real. I'd laugh at myself for jumping at shadows, then drift off, safe in the knowledge that monsters belong to other people's nightmares. But there were signs, if I'd only paid attention. Little things, at first. The hallway light would flicker when I walked past, just for a second. I'd hear a soft tapping at the window, even when the wind was still. Once, I found my bedroom door open in the morning, though I was sure I'd closed it. I blamed it on drafts, faulty wiring, my own forgetfulness. That's what you do, isn't it? You explain things away, because the alternative is too unsettling to consider. Sometimes, as I lay in bed, I get the feeling I wasn't alone. Not in the obvious, someone's in the room sense, but in a quieter, more insidious way. Like the air was heavier, pressing down on my chest. Like something was waiting, just out of sight. I'd tell myself it was nothing, just nerves, just the echo of too many ghost stories. I'd turn up the volume on my phone, let the familiar voices drown out the silence. I clung to my routines, even as the unease grew. I told myself that as long as I kept doing what I'd always done, nothing could change. That's the lie we tell ourselves, isn't it? That the world is safe if we just keep our heads down, follow the rules, don't look too closely at the shadows. But the shadows were there, all the same. Waiting. Watching. I see that now, looking back. The comfort I wrapped around myself was thin as tissue paper, and something sharp was pressing against it, testing for weakness. The first time I noticed something was wrong, it was just a shadow. It started with something small. My favorite mug, the chipped one with the faded constellation pattern, was gone. I noticed it in the morning, bleary-eyed and desperate for caffeine. I opened the cupboard, expecting to see it in its usual spot, but there was just an empty ring on the shelf, a faint outline where it always sat. I checked the sink, the dishwasher, even the trash, thinking maybe I'd broken it and forgotten. Nothing. It wasn't just lost. It was taken. That thought flickered through my mind, quick and unwelcome, but I pushed it away. People lose things all the time. I told myself I'd probably left it at work, or maybe it had slipped behind the counter. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. The mug was part of my morning ritual, as familiar as the sound of the kettle or the smell of burnt toast. Its absence felt wrong, like a missing tooth you can't stop probing with your tongue. I tried to laugh it off, but the unease lingered. Later that day, I mentioned it to my friend Jamie, who'd stopped by to borrow a charger and raid my fridge. Jamie was the kind of person who never took anything seriously, which was usually comforting. Today, though, their skepticism grated. Maybe it finally disintegrated, Jamie said, grinning as they rummaged through my snack drawer. That thing was older than you. Huh, I said, forcing a smile. I just don't remember moving it. It's weird. Jamie shrugged, popping open a can of soda. You probably set it down somewhere and forgot. Or maybe your apartment's haunted. Oh, they waggled their fingers, making a ghost noise. I rolled my eyes, but inside, I felt a cold knot tightening. Yeah, hilarious. I'm sure it'll turn up. Jamie flopped onto my couch, scrolling through their phone. You need to get out more. You're starting to sound like those people who post about cursed objects on Reddit. I wanted to argue, to insist that this was different, but I didn't have the words. Instead, I changed the subject, letting Jamie's chatter fill the room. On the surface, everything was normal, just two friends, bad jokes, the hum of the fridge. But underneath, I was replaying the morning over and over, searching for a moment when I might have misplaced the mug, a memory that never came. That night, as I got ready for bed, I found myself double-checking the locks, making sure every window was shut tight. I told myself it was just habit, but my hands were shaking. I left the hallway light on, just in case. As I lay in bed, I tried to convince myself that Jamie was right, that I was being ridiculous. But the apartment felt different, emptier, somehow. Like something had shifted, just a fraction, but enough to make the air feel colder. I dreamed of the mug that night. In the dream, I was searching for it in a house that wasn't mine, opening doors that led to endless, dark hallways. Every time I thought I saw it, a flash of blue and white, a glint of chipped ceramic, it would vanish around a corner, just out of reach. I woke up with the taste of fear in my mouth, heart pounding. The image of the empty shelf burned into my mind. The next morning, I checked again, hoping it would be back, that I'd find it and laugh at myself for making such a big deal out of nothing. But the shelf was still empty. I tried to tell myself it didn't matter, that it was just a mug, but the sense of loss was sharper than it should have been. Jamie texted me later, "Find your haunted mug yet?" I stared at the message, thumb hovering over the keyboard, unsure how to answer. I wanted to say yes, to make it a joke, but I couldn't bring myself to lie. My friend laughed it off. I wish I could. That was just the beginning. The next night, it took more. After the mug, it was little things. A pair of keys I'd used the night before. A favorite pen, the one with the bite marks on the cap. A single sock, then its mate. I started to keep a list, thinking maybe I was just scatterbrained. Maybe I'd find everything in a pile somewhere and laugh at myself. But the list kept growing, and the things that vanished weren't just objects, they were pieces of my life. Things I touched every day, things I couldn't have misplaced. At first, I tried to ignore it. During the day, it was easy. The sun would stream through my windows, and the world felt solid, ordinary. I'd go to work, answer emails, make small talk with coworkers. I'd tell myself I was just tired, that stress was making me forgetful. I'd even joke about it with Jamie, who started calling me the absent-minded professor, even though I'd never been a professor and never wanted to be. But at night, the apartment changed. The shadows seemed to stretch longer, the silence pressed in closer. I'd lie in bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying the day in my mind, trying to remember if I'd really locked the door, if I'd really put my phone on the nightstand. Sometimes I'd wake up in the dark, convinced I'd heard footsteps in the hallway or the soft click of a door closing. I'd tell myself it was just the building settling, just my imagination, but the fear was real. Then it started taking things that mattered. A photo of my parents, the one I kept on my desk. I looked for it everywhere, tearing apart drawers, flipping through stacks of papers. It was just gone, as if it had never existed. I called my mom, hoping she'd have a copy, but she didn't even remember the photo being taken. "Are you sure you didn't dream it?" she asked, her voice fuzzy with sleep. I almost believed her. After that, it was a memory. I was talking to Jamie about a trip we'd taken last summer, the one where we got lost in the woods and ended up at that weird diner with the neon sign. Jamie stared at me, blank. What trip? They said. We never went anywhere last summer. You were working all the time. I tried to argue, to describe the diner, the waitress with the mismatched earrings, but Jamie just laughed. You need a vacation, man. You're starting to sound like one of those conspiracy nuts. I started to doubt myself. Maybe I was losing it. Maybe I'd imagined the trip, the photo, the missing things. But every night, something else would disappear. A book I was halfway through, a playlist I'd made, a scar on my knee I'd had since childhood. I'd wake up feeling hollow, like pieces of me were being carved away, one by one. Desperate, I turned to the internet. I searched for stories about things going missing, about memories fading. Most of what I found was mundane lost keys, misplaced wallets, the usual complaints. But buried in forums and comment sections, I found hints of something darker. People describing the same pattern, things vanishing overnight, memories slipping away, a sense of being watched. The posts were always vague, always written in a tone of mounting panic. And most of them ended abruptly, the user never posting again. I found others, people like me. Most of their posts end abruptly. That line stuck with me, echoing in my mind as I scrolled through page after page of half-finished stories and unanswered questions. Some posts had warnings, don't talk about it, don't acknowledge it. That's how it gets in. Others were more cryptic. If you notice the pattern, it's already too late. I tried to reach out, to message a few of the users, but their accounts were deleted, their profiles wiped clean. There's a reason you've never heard of this before. It doesn't want you to know. It takes, and it erases the evidence. It's not just about losing things, it's about losing yourself, piece by piece, until there's nothing left to remember you by. During the day, I clung to normalcy. I forced myself to go through the motions, to act like everything was fine. I made lists, set reminders, took photos of everything I owned. But every morning, something else was gone, and the photos would be blank, the lists erased, the reminders replaced with static. I started to dread the nights, to fear the moment the sun dipped below the horizon and the shadows crept in. I tried to tell Jamie, to make them understand. It's not just stuff, I said, voice shaking. It's memories. It's parts of me. I think something's taking them. Jamie looked at me with pity, or maybe fear. You need help, they said quietly. Maybe talk to someone. A doctor, or I cut them off. You don't get it. You can't. It's real. I know it sounds crazy, but Jamie shook their head. I'm worried about you, man. Seriously. I wanted to scream, to shake them, to make them see. But I could feel the thing watching, waiting for me to slip up, to say too much. So I let it go, let Jamie leave, the door closing with a finality that made my chest ache. That night, I sat in the dark, clutching a flashlight, trying to stay awake. I watched the shadows crawl across the walls, listened to the silence grow heavier. I thought if I could just stay awake, if I could just keep the lights on, maybe it would pass me by. I thought I could outsmart it. I was wrong. If you're listening, you need to know the rules. They're the only thing keeping you safe. I didn't make them up. I found them, pieced together from scraps old forum posts, deleted threads, stories that read like confessions and warnings at the same time. Some of the rules contradict each other. Some are just desperate guesses. But they're all I have, and maybe they'll help you too. Rule 1. Don't sleep alone. This one comes up the most. People say it can't take as much if there's someone else in the room. It's like it gets confused, or maybe it can't decide who to take from. I started inviting Jamie over more often, making excuses about movie nights or bad weather. When Jamie stayed, nothing disappeared. But the nights I was alone, I'd wake up to find something else missing, a memory, a scar, a song I used to hum without thinking. Rule 2. Keep a light on. Not just a night light, but something bright. It hates the light, or maybe it just prefers the dark. I bought new bulbs, left lamps burning in every room. My electric bill doubled, but I didn't care. The light made me feel safe, even if it was just an illusion. Sometimes, though, the bulbs would flicker or burn out all at once, plunging me into darkness. Those nights were the worst. I'd sit in the glow of my phone, watching the battery drain, praying for sunrise. Rule 3. Never acknowledge it directly. Don't talk about it by name. Don't write it down. Don't even think about it too hard. The more attention you give it, the stronger it gets. That's what the post said anyway. I tried to follow this rule, but it's impossible. Once you know it's there, It's all you can think about. It's like trying not to think of a pink elephant, except the elephant is hiding in your closet, waiting for you to fall asleep. I started reaching out to people online, searching for anyone who'd experienced the same thing. Most of the messages went unanswered, but sometimes someone would reply. There was Night Watcher, who told me to keep salt by the windows and mirrors covered at night. It likes reflections, they wrote. It can slip through if you're not careful. I asked if it had ever taken anything from them. The reply came hours later. Too much. I don't remember what anymore. After that, their account was deleted. Another user, Lost and Found, sent me a list of rules, most of which I'd already seen. But at the bottom, they'd added, if you start to forget the rules, write them on your skin. It can't take what's part of you. I tried it, scrawling reminders on my arms in black marker. The next morning, the ink was smudged, the words half erased. I messaged them back, asking if it had worked for them. No response. Their last login was the night before. I kept searching, desperate for answers. Some people claimed you could bargain with it, offer it something in exchange for what it took. Others said that was the fastest way to lose everything. The rules were always shifting, always uncertain. What worked for one person didn't work for another. The only constant was the fear, the sense that you were always one mistake away from losing something you'd never get back. But the rules are changing. I could feel it. The more I tried to protect myself, the more it seemed to adapt. One night, I left every light on, invited Jamie to stay, covered every mirror. I still woke up to find my favorite book missing, the one I'd hidden under my pillow. The next night, Jamie called to say they couldn't make it. I begged them to come over, but they just laughed, said I was being paranoid. I didn't blame them. I sounded crazy, even to myself. That night, I sat in the living room, every lamp blazing, salt poured in a shaky line across the windowsill. I tried to stay awake, but exhaustion dragged me under. When I woke, the salt was gone, swept away as if it had never been there. My phone was missing, along with every photo I'd ever taken. My contacts were erased, my call history wiped clean. I tried to call Jamie from my laptop, but their number was gone, too. I realized then that the rules weren't enough. Maybe they never were. Maybe they just made me feel like I had some control, like I could keep the darkness at bay if I tried hard enough. But the truth is, it's always there, waiting for you to slip up, to break a rule you didn't even know existed. The night I broke the rules, everything changed. I wish I could tell you exactly when it happened, the moment I broke the rules for good. But that's the thing, it's hard to remember. The days started to blur together, nights bleeding into mornings, time slipping through my fingers like water. I'd wake up and not know what day it was, or how long I'd been lying there, staring at the ceiling, listening for the sound of something moving just out of sight. It started with exhaustion. I hadn't slept properly in days, maybe weeks. Every time I closed my eyes, I'd see flashes of things I couldn't explain, shapes in the dark, faces I almost recognized, voices whispering my name. I tried to stay awake, but my body betrayed me. One night, I must have dozed off with the lights on, the TV playing static, my phone clutched in my hand. When I woke up, the room was dark, the air heavy and cold. My phone was gone, and so was the memory of what I'd been watching. I couldn't even remember what show it was, or why I'd chosen it. That was the first time I realized it wasn't just taking things anymore. It was taking pieces of me. I'd look in the mirror and feel a jolt of panic, like I was seeing a stranger. My own face looked wrong, blurred at the edges, features I couldn't quite place. I tried to call Jamie, but I couldn't remember their number or even their last name. I scrolled through my contacts, but every name was just a string of letters, meaningless and unfamiliar. I can't remember my own face. I think it took that, too. I started writing things down, desperate to hold on to something real. I filled notebooks with details: my name, my birthday, the color of my eyes, the sound of my mother's laugh. But every morning, the words would be smudged, the pages torn out, or worse, the handwriting would change, as if someone else had written them. Sometimes I'd find notes I didn't remember writing. Don't look at it. Don't let it see you. Or, if you forget, it wins. Reality started to unravel. I'd walk into a room and forget why I was there, or what I'd been doing. I'd find objects I didn't recognize, keys that didn't fit any lock, photos of people I'd never met. Once, I found a Polaroid of myself, standing in a place I'd never been, smiling at someone just out of frame. The date on the back was from years ago, but I had no memory of it. The nights grew longer, the darkness thicker. I'd hear footsteps in the hallway, voices whispering from the vents. Sometimes I'd see movement in the corner of my eye, a shadow darting across the wall, a hand reaching for me in the dark. I tried to tell myself it wasn't real, that I was just tired, but the fear was real enough. I started locking myself in the bathroom, sitting in the tub with the lights on, clutching a kitchen knife like it could protect me from something I couldn't see. One night, I woke up to find the apartment rearranged. Furniture in the wrong places, pictures turned to face the wall. Every clock stopped at 3:33. My reflection in the bathroom mirror was gone, replaced by a smear of darkness that seemed to pulse and writhe. I screamed, but no sound came out. I tried to call for help, but my voice was just a whisper, swallowed by the silence. I started to lose track of time. Hours would pass in an instant, or stretch on forever. I'd find myself standing in the kitchen, hands shaking, not knowing how I got there. I'd look at my phone and see messages I didn't remember sending, conversations with people I didn't know. Sometimes I'd hear Jamie's voice, calling my name from the other room. But when I went to look, the apartment was empty. I tried to fight back. I covered the mirrors, left the lights on, wrote the rules on my skin. But it didn't matter. It was inside me now, burrowing deeper, taking more than I could give. I started to forget words, simple things like door or window. I'd reach for something and not remember what it was called or why I needed it. My memories felt thin, like old film, flickering and fading at the edges. If you're still here, you need to hear what happened next. The last night, I woke up to find myself standing in the hallway, staring at the front door. I didn't remember getting out of bed or why I was there. The air was thick, humming with static. I felt something behind me, pressing close, cold fingers brushing the back of my neck. I tried to turn, but my body wouldn't move. I could feel it reaching inside me, searching for something to take. I thought about Jamie, about my parents, about the life I used to have. I tried to hold on to those memories, but they slipped away, one by one, until all that was left was the fear. I felt myself fading, dissolving into the darkness, until I wasn't sure if I was awake or dreaming, alive or already gone. I don't know how long I stood there or what happened next. Maybe I screamed, maybe I just disappeared. All I know is that when I finally came back to myself, the apartment was empty, the lights were out, and I couldn't remember who I was. I wasn't alone anymore. It wanted more. I don't know how long I drifted in that half-life, a ghost in my own skin. Days, weeks, maybe longer. Time didn't mean anything anymore. I'd wake up in strange places, sometimes in my own bed, sometimes on the floor, sometimes staring at a wall with no memory of how I got there. I'd find scraps of paper with my handwriting, desperate reminders. You are real. You are here. Don't forget. But the words felt hollow, like they belonged to someone else. It was in that fog that I started to understand. The thing that haunted me, the thing that took it wasn't just a shadow or a curse. It was hunger. It fed on what mattered most. Not just objects, not just memories, but the things that made me who I was. My laughter, my friendships, the warmth of a memory I couldn't quite reach. It wanted the best parts of me, the parts one loved and the parts one tried to hide. It wanted everything. I realized it wasn't just me. I saw it in the faces of strangers on the street, in the hollow eyes of people who looked lost even in a crowd. I heard it in the stories online, the ones that ended too soon, the ones that vanished without a trace. It was everywhere, hiding in plain sight, feeding on the things we cherished most. And it was older than any story, older than fear itself. It had always been here, waiting for someone to notice. That's when I understood how it spreads. Not through touch, not through blood, but through stories, through attention. Every time someone tells the story, every time someone listens, it grows stronger. It slips through the cracks in your mind, burrows into your thoughts, waits for you to let your guard down. That's why the rules are so important. That's why people disappear when they break them. The more you know, the more it knows you. It's listening right now. Through me. Through you. I know how that sounds. Paranoid, delusional. But think about it, how many times have you heard a story that stuck with you? That made you check the shadows before you turned out the light? How many times have you felt something watching, just out of sight, after hearing a voice whisper in the dark? That's how it works. It waits for you to believe, even just a little. That's all it needs. That's why you can't look away. I wish I could stop. I wish I could burn every word, erase every trace, pretend I never knew. But it's too late for that. I've already told you too much. I can feel it, even now, pressing in at the edges of my thoughts, hungry for more. Every word I say, every memory I share, is another piece for it to take. But I have to keep going. I have to warn you, even if it means losing myself. There's a comfort in sharing a story, in reaching out across the darkness and hoping someone is listening. That's what I'm doing now, reaching for you. Hoping you'll hear me, hoping you'll remember. But there's a horror in it, too. Because every time I speak, every time you listen, it gets a little closer. It learns a little more about you, about what you love, about what you're afraid to lose. I think that's why so many stories end abruptly. Not because people give up, but because they're taken before they can finish. The thing doesn't want you to know the whole truth. It wants you to be afraid, to doubt yourself, to wonder if you're next. That's how it keeps you vulnerable. That's how it keeps feeding. I've tried to fight it. I've tried to forget, to let go of the things it wants most. But that's not how it works. The more you try to forget, the more it takes. The only way to fight back is to remember to hold on to the things that matter, even when they start to fade. To tell the story, even when it hurts. I know I'm risking everything by telling you this. I can feel it, gnawing at the edges of my mind, trying to take the words before I can say them. But I have to try. Maybe if enough people know, if enough people remember, it won't be able to take everything. Maybe we can starve it, together. So if you're still listening, if you're still here, remember this. It feeds on what you value most. Your memories, your hope, your love. It wants to leave you empty, a shell with nothing left to lose. But you're not alone. I'm still here, for now. And as long as I can speak, as long as you can listen, there's a chance. But there's one thing it can't take. Not if we fight back. I used to think I was alone in this. That's what it wants, each of us isolated, doubting, convinced our fear is just a private madness. But I know better now. I know there are others out there, people who've seen the same shadows, felt the same emptiness growing inside. I found them in the cracks between stories, in the comments that never quite disappear, in the desperate messages left behind by those who refuse to be erased. That's how I learned to fight back. Not with salt or light or scribbled rules, though I still do those things, out of habit, out of hope. But the real weapon is memory. The real weapon is community. If you remember this, it can't win. I started small. I wrote everything down, not just for myself, but for anyone who might find it. I left notes in library books, scribbled warnings on bathroom stalls, posted fragments of my story in places the thing might not notice. I joined forums, messaged strangers, shared what I could before the words slipped away. Sometimes people replied. Sometimes they just vanished. But every so often, someone would say, I remember, too. And that was enough to keep going. I know it sounds desperate, maybe even pathetic, but there's power in being seen, in being heard. That's why I'm telling you this now. That's why I need you to listen, to remember, to carry this story with you. Because every time you do, every time you refuse to let it fade, you're fighting back. You're making it harder for the thing to take everything. Leave a comment. Share your story. That's how we fight back. I know it sounds like a plea for attention, but it's more than that. It's a way to anchor yourself, to prove you're still here, still real. When you write it down, when you say it out loud, you make it harder for the thing to erase you. You become part of something bigger, a network of memories, a web of stories too tangled to unravel. I've seen it work. I've seen people come together, piecing together lost memories, reminding each other of what's real. I've seen stories that should have vanished resurface, stronger than before, carried by people who refuse to forget. It's not a perfect defense. The thing still takes, still tries to worm its way in. But it's slower, weaker when we stand together. There are rituals, too, if you believe in that sort of thing. Some people light candles, draw symbols, chant old words passed down from people who survived before us. Maybe it helps. Maybe it just gives us something to hold on to. I've tried them all: salt lines, iron nails, mirrors covered in black cloth. Sometimes I think it's working. Sometimes I think I'm just staving off the inevitable. But every little act of resistance matters. Every refusal to give in is a victory, no matter how small. The most important thing is this: don't let yourself be silenced. Don't let the thing convince you that you're alone, that your fear is just a dream. Reach out. Tell someone. Even if they laugh, even if they don't believe you, the act of speaking is enough. The act of remembering is enough. If you're listening now, you're part of this. You're part of the fight. Maybe you've never lost anything. Maybe you've never felt the thing's cold breath on your neck. Or maybe you have, and you just haven't realized it yet. Either way, you matter. Your story matters. Don't let it take that from you. So, please leave a comment. Share your story. Tell someone what you've heard. That's how we fight back. That's how we keep each other safe. The thing can't take what we refuse to forget. It can't erase what we hold onto together. I wish I could promise you that's enough. I wish I could say the fight is over, that we've won. But I can feel it getting closer. I don't know how much time I have left. It's happening now. I can feel it, pressing in from all sides, warping the air, making the walls pulse and breathe. The lights flicker, stuttering between moments. 1 second I'm here, the next I'm somewhere else, or nowhere at all. My voice sounds strange in my own ears, like it's coming from underwater or from a mouth that isn't mine. I try to hold on to the rules, to the scraps of memory I've managed to keep. Don't sleep alone. Keep a light on. Never acknowledge it directly. But the words slip through my fingers, letters rearranging themselves, sentences dissolving into static. I see flashes of faces: Jamie, my mother, strangers I almost remember. Their names are gone, replaced by a cold emptiness that aches in my chest. The apartment is wrong. The furniture shifts when I'm not looking. The windows show places I've never been: an empty playground at midnight, a hallway lined with doors that never open, a mirror that reflects nothing but darkness. I hear voices, layered over each other, whispering secrets I can't quite catch. Sometimes I think I hear you, listening, holding your breath on the other side of the screen. I'm losing myself. I know it. My hands don't look like mine. My memories flicker, skipping like a scratched tape. I try to write, but the pen leaves only black smears. I try to speak, but my voice fractures, echoing back at me in words I don't understand. I want to scream, but I'm afraid if I do, there'll be nothing left of me to hear it. If you're hearing this, remember me. Remember the rules. Don't let it take you too. That's all I have left to give you: a warning, a plea, a thread to hold on to when the darkness comes. Don't let yourself be erased. Don't let it feed on your fear, your hope, your memories. Fight back, even if it feels hopeless, even if you're alone. I can feel it now, inside my head, sifting through my thoughts, searching for something to devour. It's hungry, and I'm so tired. I want to let go, to let it take what's left, but I can't, not yet. Not while you're still listening. Not while there's still a chance. If you remember this, if you remember me, maybe I won't disappear completely. Maybe some part of me will survive, carried in your memory, in your story. Maybe that's enough. The world is glitching, unraveling at the edges. I see myself reflected in 1,000 screens, each one a little less real than the last. My voice is fading, but yours is growing stronger. You know the rules now. You know what it wants. This is my last message. The rest is up to you. Did you hear that? The static, the whisper just beneath the words? Maybe you thought it was nothing, just a glitch, a trick of your tired mind. But you know better now, don't you? You've heard the story. You've felt it, watching, waiting, hungry for the next name, the next memory, the next voice to echo in the dark. I'm not sure who I am anymore. Maybe I'm what's left of the last voice, or maybe I'm someone new, piecing together fragments from the stories that came before. Maybe I'm you, reading these words, feeling the chill creep up your spine as you realize the cycle never really ends. It just waits for someone to notice, someone to remember, someone to tell the story again. There are more of us than you think. More stories, more warnings, more desperate messages left behind in the corners of the internet, in the margins of old books, in the dreams you can't quite shake. The thing is still out there, still hungry, still listening. And now it knows your name, too. So tell your story before it takes you, too. Leave a comment. Share a memory. Pass the warning on. That's how we survive. That's how we keep the darkness at bay for one more night. Sleep well if you can.